I had a thought this weekend that I really wanted to share with you. At first, it's going to feel a bit random, but bear with me because I feel like this has certainly been a game changer for me, or something that truly changed the way I am perceived at work. So I wanted to bring this to you. If you're anything like me, like Monday morning vibes at work are often, how was your weekend? Or the first meeting of the day. Sometimes you've got team meetings where it's like, let's do a quick round and talk about our weekends. And that would always really stress me out. I felt like my weekends weren't as exciting as what some of the other people had to share. I felt like the weekend, like let's go around the room, share about our weekends, was quite performative. And I always looked to the extroverts who had full weekends full of socializing and hosting and being out and about. And my weekends were always just like, well, I went to a cycling class, I did some things at home, I recorded a podcast, which I often wouldn't feel comfortable talking about in a corporate setting. So it would always feel kind of lame compared to what the others had to share. And I thought of that as something that would potentially look bad or be perceived negatively, as in terms of like, this person doesn't do anything on the weekend. So it always felt kind of like a sticking point for me talking about the weekends. A few years ago, well, 2024, something changed and I started to be a bit more open with my personal life and some of the things that felt personal to me, but that I never really talked about. It came through me attending the Eras tour. I had booked or bought tickets with my sister. And so I started telling people, you know what, I'm going to the Eras tour. I'm sorting out my outfit. We're thinking about what we're going to wear, what era we're going to be. And so that kind of starts a conversation about favorite albums and what kind of vibe and what concert are you going to. And then you start to feel like there's other people who attend concerts too. Obviously, that was the summer in Europe where she's been to a couple of cities. And for some reason, that became a thing. Like I started talking to people about being a Swiftie and attending the concert. And so I leaned into that more and more. And then I became the person who would play a lot of Taylor Swift when I facilitated meetings. Like I had this big meeting that I facilitated once a month. And it's, with a lot of different people. It's the kind of meeting where you would potentially play a little bit of an intro music. And I would always play Taylor Swift. And after a few times, people expect you to play Taylor Swift. People know, oh, Hannah is a Swiftie. She loves Taylor Swift. She's attended the concert. I would quite often reference songs or the little gifts that you send in the Teams chat, they would always be Taylor Swift for me. And without really making this or doing this intentionally, this became a little bit of a signature in what people knew about me. And I fully leaned into that. And I'm pretty sure everybody I work with and broader teams around that know that I'm a Taylor Swift fan. I love a Taylor Swift song. I'll play some Taylor Swift music. And it's become something that made me more of a person to them. Now, I'm more of a quiet, introspective person. I put my head down at work. I'm very much focused on delivering, on output. I'm action-oriented. I'm not the warm, fuzzy type at first. And so what can easily happen is that people who don't know me much, feel like I'm distant, I'm cold, I'm uninterested, or I'm not as approachable. And so what sharing about my personal life changed is it gave people a way into me. It gave people some common ground, and it built trust to a certain extent, because suddenly I wasn't just the person who puts their head down and who jumps right into work and gets right to it, but I'm also somebody who feels a little warmer to them, a little more human, a little more approachable, because suddenly they have this picture of me of like, oh, she loves Taylor Swift. She's probably doing friendship bracelets on the weekend and she's thinking about her Eras tour outfit and things like that. So it makes you more of a human. It paints more of a picture as to what it is that you're doing on the weekend or how it is that you're spending your free time. And it builds trust. And corporate and workplaces in general are a lot about trust. I think as introspective people, we tend to underestimate how important it is to have a little bit of common ground, to have something to talk about when we collaborate with people, right? It is so important to be able to connect with each other in order to work well and in order to be somebody who people feel like they can approach, they feel like they can work well with them. And personality and our, who we are on the inside, who we are on the weekends is a really important part of that. And sharing about being a Swiftie didn't feel like something to me that was giving too much away, right? There is still so much that I do not talk about at work or in a work setting that feels personal to me. But this was an easy thing for me to share. There is one other thing that I tend to share about, which is going to cycling classes. I love a cycling class. And why this works so well for me is because I feel like it's a little unexpected. Because when you're the quiet, introspective person, nobody places you in a spin class on a Saturday morning, front row, screaming their lungs out. But that's me. And sharing that about me is something that humanizes me a little, that gives people a different perspective into me, that gives people something that they might be a little surprised about. It adds flavor to the person I am. It is me. It's not a front I put up. It's an element of who I am, of how I show up. But what it gives people is a way in. It gives people something to talk about when they interact with you, right? They might ask about my weekend. They might ask how, cycling was on the weekend. They might share about going to a cycling class themselves and then go like, oh my God, I enjoyed this so much. I was inspired because you talked about this. See how these things happen. And I feel like sharing about being a Swiftie at work did a lot for me. Like I said, I would often play the music. I was recently in a call that I organized with lots of different stakeholders, lots of senior stakeholders too. And I did a Bridgerton theme and with a little bit of a Taylor Swift reference. And then a couple minutes in, one of the senior leaders commented in the chat and said, I cannot believe that she went 3 minutes without a Taylor Swift reference. And so you can see how it's not a serious thing. It's not that deep at all. This should have probably led with that. This episode is not that deep. But for somebody like me, who would usually stay quite hidden and be exposed to her, I was usually always exposed to like the direct team that I worked with. And like I said, very focused on work, very focused on delivering, straight face, frown on my face, deep working. For somebody like that, this it makes a huge difference, because it doesn't only show that I'm a competent person, that I know what I'm doing, that I can do my job well, that I can deliver, but it also shows that warm side of me, that human side, that, friendship bracelets on the weekend and going out for a nice coffee, spin class moments. It paints a picture. It is not only that we're not only our professional personas, we are also people behind it. And if you are like me, if you are an introspective person and you feel like you never quite know what to say about yourself in a work setting, you never quite know what to say when it's about, what did you do on the weekend? Maybe you pick 1-2 things that feel safe for you to share, that do not feel like you're overexposing yourself. It's not too personal for you, but it paints a little bit of a picture. And what I love more than anything else is when what you share surprises a little bit. It feels like a little bit out of character. It feels like something that people wouldn't have expected, right? For somebody who is usually a little quieter, a little more distant in meetings, focused on their work, known as like this high performing, serious person, for them to say, you know what, I'm actually quite obsessed about spin classes and I will scream my lungs out to Taylor Swift when I'm driving in my car on the weekends, something along those lines. It gives people something unexpected. It adds flavor. It paints the picture. And for me, what I think it did is it made me more approachable. It had more people remember me for it. And it build a little bit more trust. It helps me collaborate with others. It helps me build those relationships that are really, really important to do our work at the end of the day and to do a great job at the end of the day. Now, pick something, and I would love to know what it is. Write it in the comments or reach out to me if you don't want to, make it public. But yeah, that's what I wanted to bring you this morning. And it's a little bit of a different vibe for me to just share this out loud, a little less polished than usual. This is also something that I would love your feedback on. And let's get this Monday going. Let's listen to some Taylor Swift, and I'll see you next week.